I'm going to tell you about a recurring dream that I had starting in 2005. So in the dream, there are all these people crowded around me, and they're talking to me in a very animated kind of a way. And I notice that they're up in my face, that there's nothing behind their mouths. It's black. So I take myself in the dream to a mirror, and I look in the mirror, and I talk to myself, and I realize you can't talk without showing teeth and gums and tongue, but all these people are talking to me, and they're just black behind their mouth, and it's incredibly scary. They're human, but they're empty on the inside, and there's just this terrifying feeling in the dream, and then it ends with this shot of adrenaline that this might happen to you, and I just wake up from this dream, and I was having it all the time. The other thing I noticed about this is, besides this nightmare that I'm having, I also don't have any dreams. I don't. I don't have any realistic dreams. I don't have any unrealistic fantasies. It's awful. It's embarrassing. I don't have anything that I hope for. My life has just pared down until I am just walking in front of myself. Well, I tell myself it's because of my job. You know, it's this intense schedule, and I've been all over these places, and I've been to the slums in Sri Lanka. I've been to the slums in North Salt Lake, and I've seen unspeakable things and been with people that are in things that you cannot describe with words. And that somehow has just frozen me up, but it's just a job hazard. But that isn't actually true, because I didn't speak up. I didn't push against it. I didn't have anything from behind my mouth to change that. I just let it happen to me. And so I realized I don't have any dreams, and I'm having this terrifying nightmare. Those two things. 24th of July, I go to a barbecue, and I sit next to my friends who are very excited. They're telling me about, we're moving to France. And they said, we're taking the 3 kids, and the husband's going to do medical research. And there's something about this little tidbit of information that just gets under my skin. I want to go to France. That sounds great to me. But there's just one problem, because I forgot to study medical research. And the job that I have, there's no possible way that I can do that in France or anywhere else. And so my brain says to me, you can't do that. It's not going to be possible. You'd have to quit your job. Well, there's this little voice inside that says, okay. No, because this is mid-career. You don't have that kind of savings. This isn't a possible thing for you. Don't do this. It's not possible for you. Well, it's technically possible, I tell myself. I mean, I would take terribly painful decisions, but I could technically do it. And I did. I don't know why I did. I still don't know how I did. I sold my house. I sold my house, I sold my car, I put all my stuff in storage, and I deconstructed my life to 45 kilograms, and I got on Delta, and I flew to France. New Year's Eve, starting off the new year. And I get there, and the first thing I did was I slept for 3 weeks. Because the adrenaline of getting there, of pushing, the whole time. And my family is just aghast of, what are you doing? And my work colleagues are like, is there like some mental health issues? Or is there like a failed love affair? Or did you embezzle money? Well, seriously, what's wrong? Why are you doing this? And I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I didn't know why I was doing this. So I'm in France, and I sleep for 3 weeks. And I finally start to thaw. I couldn't keep track of dates. I couldn't keep track of numbers. I was just there. I could barely get myself home on the subway. And after 3 weeks, I start to thaw, and I start to get my bearings, and I have this one realization. And it is, I have made the most stupid, ridiculous, idiotic mistake. Because what am I doing? It sounded so exotic to tell people, yes, I'm going to France, it's a year sabbatical, and they said, oh, it's so great you have the freedom to do that, and oh, you're just going to be so creative, you're going to do all these projects that you want to do. I got nothing to do. I wake up every morning, I don't know what to do. I've got all this time and all these ideas I thought I would have, nothing. And it's bitterly cold, and it's dark, and it's freezing, and it's gritty, and I have no money, and I'm walking around the city all day, and I got nothing to do except for the pit in my stomach realization of, oh, and you've used up all your money, because after this little adventure's over, you got to start over from scratch. And what are you going to do? So one day I'm in a little bookstall. I'm walking by, and I'm kind of fingering the books. This very distinguished Parisian gentleman, beautifully trimmed beard, he's got a little chapeau. He says to me, "Vous êtes Américaine?" Yeah, he can tell. because I got no chic Parisian clothes. I've got this gigantic red wool coat that's just soaking up the humidity. And it's just this Viking-inspired neon sign that says non-fashion. Everywhere I go, I'm just in that coat. And I'm living in it because it's freezing. And he says to me, well, tell me about yourself. You know, where are you from? What do you do for a living? He switches nicely to English. Obviously, I am the American. He looks at me. I've been cutting my own hair because I don't have enough money. If you've ever tried to get your hair cut in Paris, it's expensive. And he notices that my shoes are soaking wet because I can't afford to get boots. And, you know, we have this conversation. He asked me those very simple questions. Where are you from? Why did you come to Paris? I can't answer those questions. I have no idea. And I can't tell him what I do for a living. I don't know why I'm in Paris. And so I'm mumbling through these ridiculous answers. He finally says to me, do you need something to eat? And he pulls a 2-euro coin out of his pocket, and he gives it to me to go get a cup of coffee, because I am that pathetic looking. Okay, but he gave me something that was more valuable than the 2 euros, because I'm thrashing over this. I'm hashing it over every morning. Why did he say that? Why did he think that? And I'm going through this whole thing, and I recognize he doesn't know anything about me. He doesn't know how educated I am. He doesn't know that I have had this great job. He doesn't know that my hair usually looks fantastic. He doesn't know any of this stuff about me. And then it dawns on me, what if nobody knows about your education or your family or what you've done or how your hair looks or your clothes or any of that? What if they don't know about that? Then what's your identity? Okay, so who am I without all that stuff? Because he doesn't know any of that stuff. Nobody does. I'm just schlepping around in a giant red coat. And I started to ask myself, what do I do every day? Because that's the only thing I've got. I don't have any of that other stuff. All I have is time. I wake up every day and I've got all this time. How do I use that time? And what does it say about me and what I care about and what my dreams are, supposedly that I didn't have but I was hoping to get? What does it say about how I use my time? So every morning I think about that as I wake up and I start to think about. And what I notice is, well, I start to pay attention. I start to pay attention, so I'm in the gardens. The Luxembourg Gardens is free. And they have a little puppet theater there, a little pavilion. And every day they have a puppet show, and they dim the lights. And when they dim the lights, the kids just shriek with laughter. I mean, they're just thrilled. Nothing has happened yet. They've only turned down the lights. Nothing has happened. But the kids are just at anticipation. And I thought, I haven't felt that for the longest time. So I'm showing up every afternoon just for that one moment at the puppet theater where they turn down the lights. It happens every day, and I just love it. Some kids invite me to go sledding, which I have not done for 40 years. And I'm, on some kind of saucer thing, and I'm way too big for it. And I get on it, and I'm going down the hill. And of course I wreck, and I fly off, and I fly face first into this powder, just psh. But it was just exhilarating. It just felt so good. It was just so fun. And I'd forgotten what that felt like. I got a tiny little balcony in the place where I'm staying, and it's got a pigeon on there who's made a nest. And she's got 3 eggs there. And I spent the entire day one day watching her sit on that nest, trying to think, what do pigeons think about? Because I think their attention span's like this long. Because I think she goes, but she's sitting there all day long. And I tried to just wipe my mind. What if I were a pigeon? What would I think about? They don't, if you're talking about ADD, pigeons are designed for ADD. But she's sitting on that nest. She's not getting up. She's not getting up and wandering around and forgetting. What is that thing that's inside her that she says, well, this is my job. This is why I'm here. I'm not forgetting about this. This is my core responsibility. I got to take care of the nest. That's what I'm for. She doesn't ever forget that. And I start thinking to myself, what is it inside me that would be like that I wouldn't forget about, that I don't have to intellectually write down, that's just me, that is why I'm here. So I'm thinking about that. Then I'm on a train, and it's early spring, and I'm looking out the window, and I see men and women out in fields, and they're getting the ground ready to plant, and they're trimming vines, and they're getting ready for this great act of faith that they're going to plant. They're going to plant olives, and they're going to put in grapes, and they're going to have this harvest, which will be later on. And as I look at them, I realize I feel like that. I feel like I'm ready to do some great act of faith where I've kind of thought out. I've kind of prepared the ground. I'm ready for it. But what is it? What is that thing? And as I thought about that conscious I'm ready. All of a sudden, you know how the Salt Lake Valley gets inversions? And it's all socked in, and then you get that wind, and you wake up the next morning, and it's just crystal clear. It was like that. It was just crystal clear. I didn't need to worry about, what am I going to do? What do I care about? Is it this? Is it that? It was just whole in my mind. I knew exactly how I wanted to spend my time. I knew exactly what I did and didn't want to do. I wish I had this clarity now, but I felt it so clearly then. And what I wanted to do was write. I mean, it's just pouring out of me. Every day I'm just writing, this is what I want to say, and this is how I want to say it. And I'm spending all my time. And every morning I wake up just husbanding this time that I have, because I've got so much that I want to do, and there's not enough time for everything that I want to do. That's what happened to me in France. It's what I learned. And you know what? It was a mistake. It was a red herring. It was a distraction to think that I had to go to France for that. Because that was not, it was inside me. Everything that was in that was inside me. And I thought I had to go to some exotic place that sounded cool to people because somehow that made sense to them, or it made sense to me. It didn't have anything to do with an exotic place. What it did have to do was slowing down. Because the only thing that France gave me was I had to walk everywhere. And so for an hour and a half, when you're walking along and you don't have anybody to talk to except yourself, you start listening to yourself. And yourself has some pretty cool things to say. That's what happened to me. I slowed down. It was the only thing that really mattered out of that discussion. I started to pay attention, and I started to listen. We've had some incredibly interesting ideas come out today, and I am so vibrating with what I've heard. But we have to also recognize, and we've alluded to it several times earlier today, technology is fantastic and it helps us, but it also hurts us because we're so wired, we're so plugged into that, we're doing all of this stuff. And what I learned in France was slowing down. Sometimes I cannot do social innovation until I figure out who I am and what does it matter. And it's not about exotic locations, it's about me inside and what I'm doing about my time every day. That's what I learned. So I'm asking you if you'll just close your eyes, because there's bright lights and there's a lot of technology in this room. Forget about what's on your lap, and I'm going to read to you in the old-fashioned way on a little card what Dr. Seth Horowitz has been spending his whole life doing. He's an audio neuroscientist out of Brown University. He's just written a book. He's tried to put everything he's learned over all these years into this, of his research. And I'm going to read to you what he's saying. And I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to, you can feel the air, you can hear the projector, you can hear people breathing, but listen in as intense a way as you can what he's saying about how to listen. This is Seth Horowitz. He says, listening is a skill that we're in danger of losing in a world of digital distraction and information overload, and yet we dare not lose it, because paying attention to the non-visual parts of our world feeds everything, from our intellectual sharpness to our creativity to our dance skills. You never listen isn't just a complaint about relationships, it's also an epidemic in a world that's exchanging convenience for content and speed for meaning. The richness of life doesn't lie in the loudness and in the beat, but in the timbre and the variation that you can discern if you simply pay attention. I want to conclude by just asking you this, and this question changed the way I do my work, it changed the way I do my family, it changed the way I view myself. And it may have drastic consequences, but I hope it doesn't send you to an exotic location. The question is, what do you do every day with your time? And what does it say about you and about the dreams that you have and the things you care about? Thanks very much.